I'd like to now move on to our final speaker for the day, Anne-Marie. So Dr. Anne-Marie Hadley is the inaugural Chief Experience Officer at New South Wales Health, and she stands as a steadfast advocate of kind and compassionate leadership. Her unwavering commitment revolves around the profound aspiration to craft extraordinary experiences for each individual who crosses paths within New South Wales Health. So with a profound awareness of the intimate connection between the wellbeing of staff and the satisfaction of patients, families, carers and the broader community, Anne-Marie champions the cause of fostering a culture characterised by kindness and empathy within the healthcare sector. She ardently believes in the importance of enabling our amazing workforce to consistently offer the highest quality experiences with each interaction. So thank you, Anne-Marie. We'll hand over to you now.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Can I just check that if you can see the slides?
Yep. You're not on presenter view, you're on...
Yeah.
You can see your notes.
Yeah, no, I've got that. Oh, I don't want to do that in case I say something rude.
Anne-Marie, I could share the screen for you if you like.
All right, all right. I'll stop sharing. That might be
perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Stop sharing. So yeah, thank you so much for the very kind invitation to be part of today's wonderful program. It's been an absolute privilege to shine a light on the work that New South Wales Health is doing to elevate the human experience. I'm a huge fan of all of your work. So lovely to see Ria and Brendan, of course, and earlier this morning a lot of the people that I know from southeastern Sydney who are on the call as well. So, you know, a big shout out to all of you because you're all such, you know, brilliant pioneers and warriors of human experience. And as Brendan said so beautifully this morning, doesn't really matter what we call it, as long as we're doing things that are actually purposeful and really do actually make a difference. Next slide. So I would like to, I'm coming to you this afternoon from the beautiful lands of the Cammeraygal people, and I'd like to pay my heartfelt respect to the traditional owners on whose many lands that we're meeting today, assuming across Australia and also the Northern Hemisphere as well. Storytelling, and I learned a lot of this from Ria when Ria's and Brendan came to our gathering of kindness in the Illawarra about the importance of an acknowledgement of country. And that's really resonated with me. And, you know, for me, particularly in this role, storytelling is the beating heart of Indigenous culture. The primary way in which history has been recorded, the First Nations history, educational stories and the stories of country, creation and tradition, which have been passed down for generations. And today that practice of storytelling sustains communities, validates experiences and nurtures relationships and serves as a form of important cultural continuation for Indigenous people. Next slide. I'd also like to acknowledge our patients, our families, our carers, and our community members with living and lived experience. They are absolutely essential. They are trusted, they are respected, and they are valued partners in amplifying the voice of all people who come in contact with New South Wales Health. And I hopefully be able to showcase some of the work that we do to not just have that as a statement, but really demonstrate that we are very intentional about respectful and trusted partnerships and not just co-designing, but co-producing with not only our staff, but as I said, with our consumers. And I know you don't like that word, Ria, with our patients, families and communities. with lived and living experience. Next slide. So next slide as well be fine. I've worn many professional hats over the last 40 years, but probably my most cherished and impactful roles of those are of a daughter, a mother, and a glammy too. You've got 4 of my little glam babies on the screen there. And I've got 2 amazing glam teens, but they refuse to dress up for Halloween. And next slide. And just a couple of weeks ago, little Remy Lulu was born as well. So I've got 5 little glam babies under 5 at the moment. And I guess other than Tay-Tay the other night, that's what brings me joy. That's what brings me a real sense of purpose. And even though, as was mentioned up front, I have my dream job, you know, paediatrician by background, Chief Information Officer, Chief Innovation Officer. But this role of Chief Experience Officer at the Ministry is definitely a dream job, but is made even that more special by, you know, having that balance of really wanting to make a difference that their lives and their experiences in our healthcare system are the very best that they can actually be. Next slide. Of course, my other passion, as you probably can see, is sequence. And I'm also a wedding planner on the side. When I was working, that was up on the Sunshine. I was worked up in the Sunshine when the new Sunshine Coast University Hospital was being built. I was the head of the change and transformation up there. And so on the weekend, living in Noosa, I set up a wedding planning business. So that's my side hustle as well. So this is all of me. Next slide. We're also, you know, I'm very privileged as well, I feel, to be working in New South Wales Health at this time. We are being led by some absolutely extraordinary, wonderful, kind and compassionate leaders. And they've been in the system for quite some time. I just have the privilege now of working side by side, you know, outside this door on the same level as Susan Pearce and Deb Wilcox and Jackie Cross. By you know, they all happen to be nurses. Fancy that. But all who are incredibly willing to share their vulnerability and hopes for a healthcare system where people can come to work every day fulfilled and that they experience kindness and compassion from their leaders, and that our policies and our guidelines are co-designed, and that our environments are inclusive and safe. And I'm not Pollyanna, I know it's not perfect, and I know that we've got a way to go, but I cannot, I mean, and I know you guys know it, I mean, you're the centrifuge of much of this work that is happening across New South Wales and more broadly. But to have that kind of leadership in place makes, you know, as Brendan said, you know, sometimes you think, am I actually making a difference? Am I going, you know, 1 step forward and 10 steps back? But the reality is, when you're surrounded by that level of support and that leadership, and that authentic leadership, it does actually make those tough days, you know, absolutely bearable. And Brendan posed a really interesting question this morning about the imprint that you wish to leave and those whom you wish to connect. And I was thinking about that because, again, you know, you feel like sometimes you are a pebble in people's shoes. But you know, my commitment is just to change the conversations, you know, just one at a time, respectfully, but always being curious. And as I said, while I feel sometimes it is, you know, 1 step forward and a couple of back, there's always I always ensure that there's a flag on the hill or a North Star. And that, I think, provides not only a sense of hope for myself, my team, but also our front line for our patients and families and carers. And that people really, and again, it's been a central theme of your excellent presentations today. People just want to be seen. They want to be heard. But if we listen, they also want to know what we're acting on. And I think that often is one of the great challenges, is that we are intentional mostly about finding out what people want. We spend a lot of time writing it up and writing strategies and writing proposals and writing guidelines. But it is the action and that making the difference that I think is the area that we really want to focus on. But I do believe that we're getting traction and that we are really starting to gather our tribe. I've always been an advocate from being a medical student right through my medical career and into innovation and health technology, etc. It's always been trying to role model kind and compassionate leadership, and also that commitment to, or an aspiration, I guess, to craft extraordinary experiences for everyone who comes in contact with New South Wales Health. Next slide. So today I wanted to share with you some of the work that's underway across the Ministry of Health. And, I've traditionally have worked in the local health districts for many years and on the front line. And I do feel sometimes that the Ministry of Health, has maybe got a bad rap. Ivory tower, not in touch with real world, or what goes on at the front line. And, oh, here's another policy, catch it and off you go and see how you go with this. And maybe in some areas that has been true, but I guess the reality that I see in the ministry, and I was meant to be here for 3 months, it's coming up to 3 years now, but these are real people with the real vision and purpose, and who really do want to make a difference. And yes, there's silos, but there's also silos out there in local health district land and in the networks, etc. But there's absolutely, as I was mentioning earlier, the leadership and the intent to actually make a difference. One of the very first things, and it was not a long and complicated story, quite a bizarre story about, I got a phone call from the then Minister of Health. I was working in Melbourne as the Chief Experience Officer at Monash Health. And I picked up the phone one day and it was, oh, this is Brad Hazard. I went, oh, hello. How may I help you? Anyway, cut a long story short, said, oh, here, you want to come home? You had your little grandbaby. Don't ask me. Little grandbaby's been born, and I hear you want to get home to Sydney. He said, oh, I've got a 3-month job here. I'm having an argument with the Minister of Customer Service, who tells me that patients are customers. And Anne-Marie, we know they're not customers. Patients are different. They're not customers. You need to write a patient experience strategy for New South Wales Health, and you've got to do it in 3 months. Okay, as I said, 3.5 years later, but I did come up. But I think what was really interesting about that, and that was he was referring to Minister Dominello, the then Minister for Customer Service. And the reality was that was the perception when I came into the ministry, that move away. They don't know what they're talking about. You can't compare lining up your driver's license to walking into an emergency department. But surprise, surprise, you actually, the fundamentals of experience is that people want to be heard. They want to know why they're waiting. They want to know how long they're going to be waiting. They want to be treated with respect and trust and confidence. And they want to know what's happening next. They want to be treated with empathy, kindness, and compassion. They're basic fundamentals of humans caring for humans. And so over a period of time, that actually, and then of course we got the pandemic arrived, and that perception started to change. That in fact, Yes, the actual complexity of healthcare might be different to a Service New South Wales centre, but the reality was that those fundamentals of human connection were consistent across the board. So one of the very first things that we actually looked at, and was different, I looked at interestingly, the maturity between what I'd seen in the 4 years in Victoria and then coming back into New South Wales, was that and again, it might be a point of discussion, but one of the things that people found difficult to articulate was, how do we actually define what is patient experience? And that wasn't even before we sort of moved to a conversation around human experience and all of the dramas that brought along. What the hell, over my dead body will I call it human experience? Just to name a few, or just to quote a few. But we did feel that it was really important for New South Wales Health and its associated organisations to develop a formal definition about what experience means. And because it's easier to tell a story, because it was interesting when I first started, people go, oh, you're here to implement those, what are those prems and proms, those surveys? No. I just think it was really not well understood about what experience actually is, and it's so much more than a patient experience feedback survey. But also being able to describe what does an exceptional experience look like and feel like. So coming up with the definition was, I think, a significant milestone. And we didn't reinvent the wheel. We are partners with a global organisation called the Beryl Institute, and they are, one would consider, the global thought leaders in human experience. And we adopted their definition of what was patient experience, which has now been extended out to human experience. But it provided really simple language for the truly complex nature of what patient experience is about, and actually ultimately served as a foundation for framing our conversations around human experience, and that it was the sum of all interactions, that it's every encounter among patients, families and carers, our partners and healthcare workforce. And it's driven and shaped by the culture of those organisations. And it's often really interesting when having conversations with people who maybe aren't as, whose mindset maybe isn't where I'd hoped it would be. They go, well, what would a consumer or what would a patient, what would a carer know about the culture of our hospital? I go, you've just got to really, you have to just walk through that first, or find a park, walk through that first, walk through the front door of a hospital. It will tell you everything that you want to know about the culture, let alone going and sitting in the cafeteria and listening to the staff talking about their days, etc., etc. And so we thought it was really important to put culture in there. And again, I'm sort of reflecting on Brendan's conversations this morning around the importance of culture and how it isn't about necessarily satisfaction, that it is about across the continuum of care, from the minute you decide when the ambulance arrives and asks you which hospital you'd like to go to, through to hospital in the home. It's across all of the continuum. It's not, experience isn't just about what happens within the four walls of a hospital. And so being able to expand that and to get people to think about it being about the sum of all of those interactions shaped by our culture. And people's perceptions are different. My perception of what a great experience might look quite different to someone in rural New South Wales, for someone with a disability, someone from a non-English speaking background. Their perceptions and my perceptions are very different, and they're all perceptions that we need to understand and listen to. And often I see that one of the privileges I have is to, it's one of those things where I look on the positive side of things, is reviewing all of the complaints that come through the minister's office that have a relationship back to experience. And often when I see the responses that the local health districts have provided, it is clear that sometimes the empathy, and we've lost sometimes that empathy and the fact that people do have different perceptions of what a great experience should look like. So I think this definition, as I said, has been quite foundational for us to be able to have those curious conversations, which I think, as I was saying earlier, is part of what I think my role can be. So the next slide. So as I was instructed by the minister, and then at that time Susan was the Deputy Secretary of Performance and Experience, so I was reporting directly to Susan. We developed what we called Elevating the Human Experience in our Guide to Action. And I'll go to the next slide. And that was developed by just over 500 consumers, patients, families, carers, volunteers and staff. And despite the, we had, not only did we have the pandemic, but we had a lot of natural disasters happening at the same time. Of course, we had the terrible bushfires and the floods, etc. But people were really engaged and very enthusiastic to contribute, and we actually gave them the opportunity to for us to stop the process. But people were inspired, and people, I think, felt that often their voice, that there was lip service sometimes paid to really wanting to understand what mattered, and people had this opportunity to actually help influence what were going to be the priorities that were going to be taken forward. And so based on the enablers of an exceptional experience, and they're on the screen there, everything from culture and staff experience through to environment and hospitality, leadership and accountability, innovation and technology. We actually put together 7 working groups or enabler working groups that were co-chaired by a health leader and a consumer leader, with sometimes up to 100 and 150 people participating on those groups and working through what we thought was people bringing to us best practice and great ideas, the evidence, the literature, what people were saying, triangulating the data from our experience surveys, our staff experience surveys, talking to industry leaders, etc. And the next slide, please. And we then came up with a pretty, I guess, is it innovative? Well, probably where you look at where you're starting from a maturity perspective. Sometimes you've got to go backwards to go forward. And so part of that was actually identifying what were those things which are actually at a system level, because there's amazing things happening in our local health districts. But that was one of Susan's writing instructions to me was, Anne-Marie, we've got 1,000 flowers blooming, but we're not necessarily getting traction, or we've got everyone going off basically doing exactly the same thing, but it's not scalable and it's not sustainable. So what can we do to actually create that environment where we can get that system sustainability and buy-in? So we're doing great work to hear from and listen and act on what people think are real, well, not what they think is really important, what is important to them. We've provided some of the science behind that as well. But what are those foundational pieces as well that really needs that the system, i.e. the ministry, can help support the local health districts, agencies and pillars in the work that they're doing. And so we have identified, and of course at the same time as well as what always happens, isn't it? The ministry's existing strategic plan was coming to a close, and so there'd been a lot of work done on what was called, what is called Future Health, and that's the guiding strategy for New South Wales Health over the next 10 years. I'm really pleased to say that pretty much 80% of Elevating the Human Experience Guide to Action was taken and placed into the Future Health Strategy, which was just, phenomenal. And it was great that the language was used. And I think that is one of the things that I think I'm proudest of, is that, we talked before about silos, but that alignment. So the importance of aligning language. It doesn't mean to say that people don't have the flexibility and agility to modify and to put into context in their environments as well. But the fact that we're all speaking, I guess, from the same song sheet or hymn sheet, I guess, in that there's some purpose and intent, but still with that flexibility and agility to tailor it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, to your needs. So the 5 areas that have been prioritised amongst 100 of initiatives that have come through over the next 3 years, the 5 areas that have the focus on them is around feedback and self-reported information, discharge planning, health literacy, compassionate leadership, and consumer partnerships. So they're the focus, the combined focus of Future Health and Elevating the Human Experience. And there are a number of other initiatives that are going on to support that. But there are the 5 focus areas, which is now over the next, we've been going for a year with Future Health. And so over the next 2 years, we're hoping to deliver significant system-led work, supporting and aligned with the wonderful work that happens across our local health districts. Next slide. And that's just a summary of some of the current areas of focus. And what I was hoping to do in the time left, which isn't very long, was just to highlight a couple of areas that I think you might find of interest. So I'll go to the next slide. One of them is called All of Us. And I do hope, given the work that you do, that you are familiar with All of Us. And All of Us is probably, this is one of the foundational pieces, and it came out of 2 enabler working groups, the Leadership and Governance Group, and also the Collaborative Partnerships Group. So All of Us has been developed. It's not a document, it's a website. It is one that, as I said, that I'm incredibly proud of, and if you're not aware of it, very happy to share all of the resources that have been developed. It's been truly co-designed by our people with lived and living experience, and is testament, I believe, to the ministry's commitment to respectful and trusted engagement with consumers. So if you're not aware of it, I would really recommend that you take a look, and happy to share with the group and with Rhea any links that might be of use to you. In particular, we've developed these fabulous method cards as well, and I know we're working with the Illawarra and Rhea around some of the work they're doing around engagement with Aboriginal communities as well, and this forms the basis of the work that we're doing with other vulnerable groups across New South Wales in particular. Linked in with this work, of course, and our code of care, which has been really important. This is primarily focused at lifting our game, particularly with our staff, through no fault of their own, have really never really had have not had a mindset, and really needs a real shift as to how to respectfully engage with people with lived experience. But one of the other things that I'm very proud of is that we've got the first statewide guidelines for remuneration and reimbursement of consumers. So that is now, is it business as usual? No. It's the guidelines have been out for 6 months, and our local health districts are putting in place their own local policies and procedures. But again, I feel that it's a really important sign to the system about how we respect and value consumers with lived experience. The ministry is also in the process of establishing a design crew, excuse me, to establish the first peak voice across the Ministry of Health as well for consumers. So we're hoping to launch that peak group in July of this year. Next slide, please. I'm so sorry. The next thing I'm really excited to tell you about is the launch of the new statewide health literacy hub. So we've just signed a memorandum of understanding with Western Sydney Health Literacy, Western Sydney Local Health District, to scale and embed a new statewide health literacy hub. You may be aware that the National Health Literacy Strategy is being released at the end of this year. And I think we're going to be in a very good position in New South Wales to actually lead that work. I'm so sorry, tickling my throat. So I'm very excited about that, and again, very happy to share where that's at. I think, again, a really wonderful example of reducing the silos, identifying what's best practice, bringing the collective best practices across all of our local health districts, and really systematising that work. This is in partnership with the Sydney University Literacy Lab as well. So the work in the health literacy research, translation and sharing, because we're going to be funding specific positions there as well. You'll be happy to know. I just think it's just going to take it to the next level. So we're very excited about where that's going to take us. So might skip the next 2 slides. I was just going to show the timeline there, but you'll get that. Again, I'm happy to move on and not share the slides with everyone. I guess my passion, and for those of you who know me, has been around the Gathering of Kindness. And there were just a couple of lovely photos of some of our colleagues from southeastern Sydney and the Central Coast. I still feel that there is a perspective from some people that when we talk about kindness and compassion, that it's something that's soft and fluffy. Susan, as we know, has been on a mission for at least 10 years when she produced Small Acts of Kindness, and I've put a copy of that video at the end of this presentation for you to have a look as well. But it's not something new to New South Wales Health. It is actually about how do we align that to make it as an important conversation and discussion as anything else that we do. So in the last Gathering of Kindness, we reframed it in the context of quality and safety. We've partnered for many years with the Hush Foundation, but also had the privilege of having Professor Don Berwick also part of the Gathering of Kindness last year as well. And can't tell you what sort of that just took it to another level, and just in terms of bringing people along on the journey. But the gathering, again, it's not about an event, it's about the system leadership. And sometimes that is maybe the fact that we just provide some seed funding to support people to put on activities, to run a barbecue at Long Bay, to run watch parties, and to have a morning tea in perioperative, or to run a spiraling kindness workshop in the Illawarra. You know, again, we're just wanting to provide those opportunities for people to be able to spread that kindness, but at the same time build capability in compassionate and kind leadership. So I guess one of the highlights, which is the next slide, was the launch of Kind Lab, which was I guess a take on Shark Tank, but we had kind sharks, and we put out an expression of invitation across the system to consumers and also staff to pitch their innovative ideas on kindness for improving healthcare experiences. And we didn't know what to expect, but we were overwhelmed with applications and pitches. And we had the beautiful Melissa Doyle. When we had the Kind Lab, we selected 6 pitches, and in an Oprah-like moment, all 6 pitches were supported. So we're now providing 2 consumer pitches and 4 staff pitches from various areas of New South Wales, and various different initiatives that they wish to implement. And they'll be receiving both financial support, but also mentoring and coaching. And we're providing that sort of kind leadership and support across the system. And we'll have a check-in at the next Gathering of Kindness later this year, as a where are they now, and see the progress that they've actually made. So, and I've just noticed just recently that Western Sydney has launched their own Kind Lab. So again, you know, showing that leadership at a system level and seeing how people might take that up and take up some good ideas and spread it across their own local health districts. So I'll just finish up now. I think that's probably 1 or 2 more slides. Yeah, that's the video which you can look at in your own time. And I guess it's probably my favourite quote, but I guess it is what we probably all of us on this call live by. But the people forget what you said, people forget what you did, but they'll never forget the way that you make them feel. And I guess that's what sits at the heart of the work that New South Wales Health is working towards. And again, thank you so much for the beautiful invitation to be part of your very special day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. It's really showcased some amazing work that's going on in New South Wales, and it was terrific to hear about that, and just, yeah, and to get that real sense of your passion and contribution to it. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm wondering if there's just a comment or a quick question, just in the interest of time. Well, I'll hand over to you, Ria, because I see you unmuted.
I'm going to sum up using Anne-Marie's comments anyway. So thank you so much, Anne-Marie, for finishing off the conference. And I think so many of the points you made has summarised the whole day for us. And so thank you for your wisdom and your kindness in that. And it's been my pleasure to get to meet you through one of our shared colleagues and to see the wonderful work that you're doing. So I love the way that Anne-Marie spoke about the sum of all experiences. And I think when we think about personhood, that's who we are as a person, but then relating that back to, and I've never heard it then related back to that being patient experiences. And I think today especially Ashley touched on that when she talked about her lived experience as a cancer survivor, and there wasn't a dry eye on the screen when we heard about the moments where she didn't, but also did experience person-centeredness. Kelly and Webb then went on and they talked about how we measure and explore those experiences, and the breadth that we can use for that I thought was really great. And it was great to hear Webb talking about the quantitative aspects that we can bring into becoming mixed method researchers, which is a journey I'm on, and thank you, Webb, for sharing that. Helen challenged us to consider that she wants people to be heard and seen, and I think that also shone in Ashley's presentation when she wasn't heard and seen and when she was heard and seen. But healthcare needs to be have curious conversations was another point that Anne-Marie made. And when we think about the systems that support at the local health district level, or whether it be in the universities, but having that strategy for a way forward, which we heard from Brendan and Royanne, and then Karen shared her vision and the work that she's doing about the importance of leadership and creating cultures that support safe person-centered care. And then Anne-Marie shared that kind of the importance of collaboration, and that shared how we have shared development in that strategy. And that really shone through in Royanne's presentation, the work she's doing with Brendan at Sydney Uni in creating the person-centered Indigenous curriculum, which I'm just obviously a massive fan of, thought it was amazing. And yeah, so I think all the presentations have been fabulous. It's been a great day. Thank you everyone for joining us. There will be some more webinars coming up and lots of information. So anyone who wasn't a member of person-centered practice environment, by joining us today, you become a member. And I know poor Webb's been so overwhelmed, you may not have heard about that membership. So, because I have had a couple of people reach out to go, has my membership been processed? But I would really like to just finish very quickly by saying thank you to everyone involved in organising today, Brendan, Beck, Kelly, myself, but most importantly, Webb. Webb has made this journey such a seamless and wonderful experience to be part of. You really are an amazing human, as well as a great collaborating person to work with. So thank you so much, Webb, for everything you do and how you just work so tightly behind the scenes, and then just pop up. You're very much the quiet achiever, but you certainly achieve a lot. So thank you so much for that. I know, Brendan, we normally give you the best accolades, but sorry you don't get them today, Webb does. And that's with Brendan's approval, okay. So thank you, everyone. It's been a great day. And yeah, I'm looking forward to our webinar series moving forward. Anything you'd like to add, anyone, before we go? Okay, bye, everyone.